3, 2, 1, let's go. Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of Boring JavaScript. I'm your host, the Virtual Void, aka Mike Smith, and today we're going to be talking about the trim method on strings. Now, what exactly does trim do? Well, if you have white space at the beginning of your string and white space at the end of your string, trim will take that out for you automatically. Not only are we going to show you that, but we're going to show you the trimend and trimstart methods, which are two new methods added to the latest ES6. All right, let's get started. The first method I'm going to show you here is the trim method. And like I said earlier, that will take white space from the beginning of your string and the end of your string. So what do we need for this example? Well, we need a string. And sure enough, here is my string. I have white space at the beginning and white space at the end. The trim method itself will take the string, trim off the ending and the beginning white space, and assign that to a new variable. It will not change the original variable. So I'm going to be printing out my original variable here and the changed variable at the end here, and I should expect both of them to be different. And by the way, these little dashes here are just to show you where the white space is located. So I would expect to see the spaces between the dash and the text here, but I would expect to see no spaces on the trim animal. Let's run into Node and let's take a look and see how that operates. Node trim. Sure enough, there it is. There are my spaces. This is the original variable, and the trim method has taken out the spaces. So if you need spaces taken out from the beginning and the ending of your string, use the trim method. ES6 introduced two new methods to strings that facilitates the ability to trim either the start or the end of the string. I'm going to show you the first one here, and it's called trimend. And just like the name implies, it trims the end of the string, but not the beginning. Let's show you how that works. I have the same string as before, same print statements. All I've changed here is just the method. Trimend will trim out white space from the end of the string, but it will not trim it out from the beginning of the string. And just like before, the original string is not mutated, but it is returned into a new string. Let's go into Node and take a look at that. Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Notice I still have spaces at the very beginning of the strings, but I do not have spaces at the end. So trimend took out those spaces from the end of the string. Now, one thing I do want to show you here is that for compatibility with other web components, there's actually an alias for trimend, and that is called TrimRight. So let me show you how that works. Let me bring that up here. I just so happen to already have the code. So here's the TrimRight. It does the exact same thing as trimend. And to prove that, let's just flip back over to Node and run the same code. And I got the exact same thing. So if you want to trim white space from the very end of your string, use trimend or trimright. The second method is the trimstart method. Now, you want to take a wild guess at what that does? That's right, it trims the start of a string of white space, but does not touch the end. So I have the exact same string here. I have the exact same console outputs, but now I'm doing the trimstart, and just like before, it does not mutate the original string, but returns a new string with the white space taken out of the beginning. Let's take a look at that. Node trimstart. Sure enough, notice at the end here, the white space is still there, but at the very beginning, it is not there. Now, just like the trimend statement, for web compatibility reasons, the trimstart method also has an alias, and that alias is trimleft. And again, like last time, I just so happen to have the code here. So now notice that the only thing I've changed is I've gone from trimstart to trimleft. They do the exact same thing. And to prove it, let's go back over to Node and let's type that in. Sure enough, it's gone from the beginning and it's still there at the end. So if you want to trim white space from just the beginning of your string, use trimstart or trimleft. Now, does trim just take out spaces? No, it takes out a whole plethora of what the web considers to be white space. So I went to the Mozilla Developer Network and I got a listing of all the different white spaces that trim will take out. And I have included that now in my text. This includes things like non-printable spaces, Unicode, certain Unicode space, non-printable space characters, things like carriage returns, new lines, tabs, and of course our all-time favorite, just a plain old white space. So I've included all of those in both the beginning and the end of my string. And of course, I'm just doing the 2 printouts and the trim like I had before. So let's see how that works. Let's go back over to Node and let's type that in. Let's type it right. And sure enough, my original string has all those funky characters, including tabs and, carriage returns, line feeds, non-breakable spaces, all kind of fun stuff. But trim has gotten rid of every single one of them. So again, not only will trimstart, and trimend take out just spaces, but it takes out quite a number of different white space characters for you. And that's all there is on the trimstart, and trimend statements. I hope you enjoyed our video. Hope it didn't bore you to death. Please check out all of our videos at www.boringjavascript.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or check out our blog site at thevirtuoid.wordpress.com. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.